The beauty of gardening season. I love this time of year because I get to see some of the produce from what I have planted. Now, at the beginning of this journey, I talked about growing things outside of my fence, sort of like an alleyway. We have a bit of an alleyway here before the train tracks, so instead of dealing with tall grass, this is my solution. So here I am. We have some carrots, some onions. And because it's outside the fence, I do put up a bit of so that's the box, that's the raised box. And then I put up these around there so that the animals and people, I guess, don't go in there. Mostly it's because of the animals, to be quite honest. So I have some onions and carrots I'm mainly growing here. The tomatoes didn't really come up very well on this side. I'm not sure why, but in another section of the garden they're growing in abundance. Now on this side, on the other side of the fence again, there's the bigger box here. So on this side I have a very, very tall sunflower plant that reseeded itself from last year, and I kept giving away plants this year, but I kept a few. So as you can see, the lettuce is going to seed. I'll pull it out here soon. I do have, what do I have in here? Kidney beans. So that red bean. So I learned how to grow that a few years ago. So lots of kidney beans. Yes, I do cook with them. I'll save some of the seeds, but I do cook with them. And then I have more carrots because I was experimenting to see how well this section of the garden would handle the carrots. Last year, not so much, but I realized I didn't water enough and it needed some more nutriments. So I added some sheep manure to the soil, and this year, fairly good. And the dill reseeds itself. It comes back in abundance. Now I have some cucumber plants. They're doing really well. I've picked quite a few. I've pickled them already. And I believe I can see a couple more that are on the vine there. There's a small one. There's a small one coming. So lots of flowers on this guy here this year. So when I grow it in a different spot, it usually gets quite big. So I'm thinking in future years, this is probably not the best spot for this because it gets too much sun. So I'm thinking I'm just going to put it in the garden that's in the yard. But a good experiment. It's good to experiment to see how things are doing, what works well where. And I do keep a gardening journal, so I will keep track in there so I remind myself of that next year. Alright, so as you can see, the carrots, I was doing some thinning of the carrots yesterday. So what that means is, you see how these three are growing fairly close together. I'll wait until this guy gets a little bit bigger so that when I pull it out I can actually use it. It's a little trick I actually found. I don't like wasting my seeds. I did replanted some seeds here, so as you can see it's coming up. So the whole idea was trying to do succession planting, so I'm just experimenting with that. It basically means you start the garden at one point and you just keep planting more at different points. As you can see here, I have 3 here, so I might pull this one out in a little while here. So I did quite a bit of thinning yesterday, so there'll still be some spots that I'll need to thin, but for the most part it's doing really well. So this is section number 2. So this is fairly big, and then there's the other section over there. Alright, so there are 2 other sections of garden, and this is in my yard along the fence area. As you can see over here, I've planted potatoes, and there are some kidney beans in there as well. The potatoes actually have sort of taken over, which is fine. And then on this side I have some peas, some peas. I have some more carrots. It's a season of carrots, experimenting with my carrots. I have parsley. So here's the parsley. So I keep, this guy here has gotten quite big. That's the one thing with marigold is they do get big. Once the flower has flowered to this point, I'll wait until it dies back, like dries up. Then I actually will clip these here, about this far down, and the seeds are dry, and I store the seeds for the summer. And I can have my own marigold. That way I'm not paying like ridiculous money for a plant. So I have some bell peppers. They're not doing really well this year. I'm not quite sure why. And then we have basil here. Now the lettuce here, some of it is pretty good still, and some of it is going to seed. The one that's going to seed, I'll have to pull this out, but it's done for the season. And then I'll probably do some succession planting on, I'm thinking spinach. As you can see, remember I talked about the carrots. That one is doing pretty good. I have lemon balm. So this is, this is a herb. So I need to start drying some of this stuff here pretty soon. I have spinach has gone to seed, so I'm actually going to pull this out today, and then I'm going to do some succession planting, which means I plant more seeds. I would like to have a new crop for the fall with some of this. And here the kidney beans are actually done, so I can pull this plant out. And my whole idea is when I pull this out, I'm going to put spinach in its place. So how do I know it's done? It's usually the leaves are getting browned and the pods start getting dry. I normally don't leave it to this point, but I did this year because I wanted to do the video. As you can see here. Oops, there we go. So that's what it looks like inside one of these. So this is kidney beans. So what I do, I collect them and then I put them in a container and let them completely dry out before storage. So I have lots of picking to do today or tomorrow. Okay, let's take a look over here. Like I said, I put some potatoes on this side. I do need to do some hilling today. But before that point, I want to just get in here and show you how some of my potatoes are doing. Ah, I gotta get through. Gosh. Okay, so I need to hill because as you can see, some of the roots are shooting up. So that's some of my potatoes there. My beautiful potato. I'll pull this one off. This one is still attached. Yes, it is. Let's see. I feel like I'm digging for a treasure for fun. See, as you can see, it's still attached. So if I don't want to pick it, I just cover it up so I can add some more dirt, and that's what is called hilling. You cover them up. So you hill it by covering it up. Alright, sorry about that. As you can tell in every single video, my dog has an opinion about life. Okay, so this is section number 3. All right, and coming up to the 4th section here, this is where the tomatoes are actually doing really, really well on this side of the garden. So what I have here is I have lots of spinach. I have some dill that sort of blew in this section because I never planted it here, but that's okay. Dill takes over if you let it. But I wanted to show you this. This is where I have my carrots. I seem to have carrots everywhere this year, and I did that on purpose because I'm experimenting and trying to see what grows well where. So I've never planted carrots in this section, so I just have a little bit. It's, as you can see, it's just like one plant here, one plant there, one plant there. I have a little bit, so it's not quite a lot. But it was an experiment at best. And then what do I have here? I have my tomato plant, and the key with tomato plants is you take off the bottom um, stems so that the leaves aren't touching the ground. So this one is coming up really well. These are tomatoes I actually grew from seeds. I grew them a little bit late in the season, so it's taken a little bit longer to get into the fruit, but it's getting there. As you can see, this one is doing really well already. So I have 4 plants in this section. They're doing really well. I didn't plant them until the end of April. Normally I do that way before. I have some spinach on here. These guys here are done for the season. I'm going to do some more succession planting, and so I'll pull these out today. Even though they're done, they have some baby leaves, and I still like using that in my omelets. It's sufficient for what I need when I'm making scrambled eggs or omelets. So this is still the garden bed number 4 here. As you can see, the dill reseeded itself. It does that quite a bit. I actually just planted some Swiss chard. I had planted it somewhere else, but it didn't come up, so I just planted it. So we should have nice Swiss chard. Lots of chives. I've been harvesting chives. I still have a little batch to go. But the chives basically are like the border for this section of the garden. So in this part here, I'm going to plant in that empty space. I'm going to put lots of Swiss chard. And then here we have a sage, another tomato plant that is doing really, really well. And of course a dill that seemed to like the tomato plant. So this is section number 4. So one of the biggest experiments I'm doing this year is planting potatoes in a pot. So here you'll see this is like a barrel I cut in half. Last year I used the whole barrel. Things didn't go as well as I wanted it to. So this year I've cut it in half. I'm interested to see how well it goes. I'm not quite sure yet. It's not ready to harvest. It will be soon, but it's an experiment at best. Here are those grow bags. I decided to try potatoes in there this year. I have a couple here. So we'll see how that goes as well. And then on this one section, what I decided to do is to put the mint in a pot. I'm hoping to bring this inside in mid-fall for the winter. And the whole idea is to have fresh mint in the winter. I'm hoping that this experiment goes really well this year. I put some chives in there because I love my fresh chives in scrambled eggs. So I wanted to do that just to see how it will fare through the winter, even if I can have it right through until, I don't know, half of the winter, maybe December or so. And in this next pot here, I actually did like a little herb garden in a pot. Something else I'm hoping to bring inside for the winter so I can have fresh herbs. As you can see, my oregano is flowering. I need to cut it back. The chives didn't do as well on this side, probably because, I don't know, I have never done this process of putting herbs in a pot yet. They're doing okay, but not the greatest. The basil, I've cut the basil back quite a bit. It used to be like triple time that size. So the basil's loving this pot this year. I have some fresh parsley here, so I might have too much in here actually. I'm not quite sure. I have a little bit of rosemary. It smells really nice. So yeah, this pot smells really nice, and I have some thyme. I discovered this isn't one of my favorite thymes. I thought it was, but it's not the one I really like. I'm not sure which one my favorite is, but it's not this kind. But it still works. And my dog is having an opinion about life still. Oh, she's just barking at a passive vehicle. Okay, so yeah, that's something else I did because I want to be able to have those things in the wintertime. Yeah, so again, another experiment, and let's see how well it goes. And then last but not least, one of my favorite plants, canna lily. I've had to separate the roots into about, I don't know, 5 plants because it's it grows and grows and grows. So this guy here, this is just one of 3 big ones, and I have a couple of small ones. I do intend on bringing it in for the winter. I'm hoping it does well this winter. It almost died this year. This is the 3rd year since I've had this plant. It started out with just 2 small, tiny plants, and it is like I keep having to transplant it. I keep having to give it more space, and yeah, it's doing fairly well. It's like at the beginning of the season I had it cut back to just a very small little section in the pot, and now it's grown quite a bit. So I just totally like this plant. I'm not sure why, but I do. It's not scented, which is fine with me because I'm very sensitive to a lot of smells, um, which is okay, and I love it. Yeah, here you can see it's starting to blossom again, and yeah, I think I need to feed it something though. I probably need to give it some fertilizer because I could see some yellow leaves. It's been really hot here as well, so I just need to make sure that I'm thinking to add some more soil now that's grown up quite a bit, and add some fertilizer. Yeah, so it's one of my favorites. I actually have quite a bit. Well, that's the end of the tour of my gardens and what I do to grow vegetables. It is so wonderful not to have to buy any vegetables at the store at this time of the season. I've been living off the land for veggies, I would say, since middle of July, which is really good. I think for this next season, I'm going to start a few things earlier indoor so that it's ready for the outdoor. Um, yeah, the garlic is actually, that was a new thing I planted there, and it's actually coming up really well. It's an experiment. Like I said, most of the gardening sometimes is. As you can see, my pepper, it's coming. Hopefully it will get big. That's something that next time I want to start really early, because I noticed there's certain vegetables that need a longer growing season than we have here in Canada. I think, can't remember what zone we are, but yeah, we need a lot more time to grow these things. All right. Oh, and another one of my favorites, like I said, is marigold. Why do I have, you might wonder why I have this fence. I have a dog that likes to, she waits until the carrot is ready, and then she will actually pull it out of the ground. So that's one of the reasons for the fence and making sure that she doesn't destroy my stuff. She's pretty good about it now, but still, I keep the fence there because every time I pick the carrot, she's always like, oh, where's mine, kind of thing. Anyway, yeah, so that's my garden.